Hello, I am Trapdoor and this is my video about classes. In this video I go briefly over every single class in my game and their subclasses and their flavor and the idea for mechanics overall, the fantasy I want the player to live out when they choose that class. This video will not be in depth on every class. I intend to make a single video per class that then goes in depth to all the mechanics and the flavors and deep mechanics of the subclasses of every single class. But those will be separate videos. Here I just want to give you a summary and overview of what you can actually play as. Of course, since you can also do multi-classing in my game, the classes are not very restrictive. Even if you chose primarily one class, you can still easily dip into other classes and really mix and match what you like. But also that would be its separate video that would be about multi-classing. Here I just want to keep it on the flavor so you know what each class represents. Some things of course may change, some flavors may be slightly adjusted in the end, as this is still all in development, and as classes and mechanics progress I may have new ideas, I may have some better ideas that improve upon the class or may replace a feature here and there. Also, I tried for this video to find a few pictures of characters from fiction and stories and movies and anime that more or less represent the ideas I have for those classes, that represent a part of the fantasy. It wasn't possible for every class to find a picture-perfect representation. Actually, it was very difficult for some, while for others it was a bit more easier as the class fantasy is more generic or a more commonly used stereotypes in other games or movies and general in fiction. Okay, then let's start. The artist. The artist comes with the subclasses Bard, Dancer and Painter. An artist in general inspires with their performance and the creations they bring forth. Whatever the art form may be, which they choose to specialize in, their show is always alluring to anyone, admirers and haters the same. The knowledge of performing, creating all kinds of art forms gives them a greater understanding of the connections in the world and a variation of advantages in combat. The Bard is the most classic representation of this archetype. They play music or sing a song, and their music will inspire their allies or distract foes. The tones can cause direct harm to enemies, even push them or cause them headaches and crowd control effects. And at the same time, it may inspire your allies to move faster, to take reactions, to pick up arms, to heal a little bit, or to just be mentally more resistant to hostile effects. Of course, while singing and making music, that shall not halt you from maybe using your fist or your blade to stab or punch at the opponent. Depending on your choice of music instrument, you may even use that to strike at the foe. However you want to play your bard is really up to you. The mechanics are supposed to support any kind of bard, no matter if you play a nice tune on a lute, or if you sing a ballad, or if you want to go with your magical electric guitar and go on full metal growling on the battlefield. The dancer performs well in different kinds of dances and combines a variation of dances and tempo and speed and rhythm and just tries to maneuver the combat with high mobility, with moves and with dance-alongs. They may distract foes with their rhythmic movements or bring on allies in a pair dance where they pull them along and give them an extra spin, or maybe even do some more of a combat dance, maybe inspired by capoeira, where you swing around and make many kicks hitting the foes, or maybe you intimidate more with like a waka war dance style. I really imagine the dancer to be very agile, very mobile, and dancing all around the battlefield to then attack enemies, help allies, and dodge all kinds of attacks. And then the painter is a master with the brush. They paint landscapes, creatures, or even surrealistic Escher-like creations. whatever they paint, whatever has made it onto their canvas, will come to life. It may take the painter a little bit of time to paint a bigger picture, but already a small, quick sketch coming to life can be advantage. To paint some wings on one of your allies can allow them to actually fly for a few turns. Or maybe you draw some rocks into the scenery so your group has something to hide behind to get cover. Or maybe they draw some kind of wild beast that then can attack the enemies. Or they may just choose to take a little bit of extra time and repaint the landscape, opening a whole new world to transform the battlefield. They of course can paint a door into a wall where there was no door before, and the door will then appear as their painting becomes real. They can just paint something that is already there and then paint extra additions on them that immediately take effect. All of their paintings, though, are made with ink or with paint, and that will be washed away with time. So all their effects will not last forever, they will not be permanent, everything will be temporary, and of course, the duration will be shorter when it's raining, for example. I imagine the painter as a strong summoner, controller, and buffer, more on the spellcasting side, maybe a little bit weaker physical, especially compared to the dancer, rather taking the distance from the foes and then pulling onto the battlefield whatever the situation requires. Next class, the Devotee. The Devotee comes with the subclasses of the Paragon of Zeal, the Paragon of Dualism, and the Paragon of Virtue. The Devotee has chosen to set foot in the path of the divine, following gods and their ideals. They have their preferred aspects among the local pantheon, or whichever they want to focus on with their holy powers, and they use spiritual magic blessed by the gods as they are to support friends, bolster their strength, and cause divine judgment upon the heathens and heretics. They do not have to be a fanatic though. They can be if they want to, but they can also have a more open interpretation of their belief. At the beginning, the class of the Devotee chooses a direction to dedicate their belief, which may go in hand with a specific deity they may choose, or it may go with several deities and they follow depending on the situation, always upholding one of their paragons. For the Paragon of Zeals, these are the most zealot and most fanatic followers of their ideals. They do not shy away from blood rituals or vile sacrifice as long as it pleases their gods or their fellow believers. They have seen the truth. They know what is real, and they know the world is dark and full of sinners and evildoers. They will not compromise on their beliefs and even take up harsh measures to bring forth their conviction and to convict others, to bring them into their faith. They are probably quite absolutists as they consider their paragon, their devotion to be the one true one. Of course, I would advise if you play that, make sure this goes well with the other people in your party, to not step on each other's toe and to not bring too much conflict if that is not desired into the party. But it can be very interesting to bring this zeal, this fanatism onto the combat and shower the enemies with vile curses and your god's judgment, and even sacrifice your own blood and the blood of your allies to cause further harm to the heathens and heretics. Then we have the polar opposite of that, which is the Paragon of Virtue. The Paragon of Virtue intends to live by example, to be the better person, to be the greater person, to be the one that offers the other cheek. They do not have to be a pushover, they can also be very stern in their conviction. But they are holding up high morals that they themselves will live up to. They may not expect others to do so, but they want to inspire others to do so by example. And thus, they are more on the, let's say, positive side of effects. They rather buff their allies, they inspire their allies, they heal their allies, they want to give people a second chance, they believe in redemption arc, they believe that even some of their opponents, if they just get the chance to see what a life of virtue can lead to and how that betters not only themselves but the world around them, then they may sway away from the path of evil and actually commit to a life of doing good. They may even be self-sacrificial to some degree in that. And their gameplay mechanics, their spells, their divine actions shall represent that. And then the paragon of dualism is pretty much the devotee of two sides, the devotee of black and white, of two faces, of yes and no, going into both extremes to find balance. They often choose opposing gods or opposing beliefs to fully commit to. Maybe it's life and death. Maybe it's progress and tradition. Maybe it's light and darkness. It can be whatever you can see. It could also be more on the elemental case. Maybe you believe in fire and water. The paragon of dualism really wants to switch back and forth and believes you need to experience always both sides of a coin to see the bigger picture. You need to have experienced great lows to be fully able to experience the great highs. And if you never had great highs, you will never see the true dread that a great low can cause. And thus they switch back and forth between positive effects and turn them into negative effects to turn them again into positive effects. And although the mechanics of the paragon of dualism shall represent this back and forth into extremes. This is a very unbalanced class in that way that they have no mid-level abilities or there's no, oh yeah, it does a little bit of everything. They don't do a little bit of everything. They do either full-on harm or full-on heal, full-on buff allies or full-on debuff enemies. For them it's important to swap back and forth. Next class, the Druid. The Druid has the subclasses of the Botanist, the Pack Leader and the Ranger. The Druid is the true child of nature, often preferring the company of plants and animals over that of people. While they may visit civilization, they usually prefer to stay in remote wilderness, to protect and nurture the wild. They have powerful magic of nature that can grow dangerous plant life, summon packs of animals, cast weather-affecting magic, and may even have a little animal friend to come along on their adventures. This is a very versatile class that can be played in various ways, and the subclasses dig a little bit deeper into the core mechanics and focus on one aspect over the others. The Botanist, as the name indicates, they focus all on plant life. It is peaceful and crucial for the survival of all. They nurture the nature and use their primal magic to cause rapid growth. They really love to hug the trees, as the trees are the better people than people. And they also know that wildlife, that plants, that the flora can be more dangerous than any beast or man if you only give it the right soil and some time to grow large. They have extra abilities that allow them to grow plants within very short amount of time. Plants that can become aggressive and even upheave their roots and move on the battlefield, that can strike with their branches at the enemies or pollinate toxic fumes into the enemy's faces, or grow berries or other healing fruits that you and your allies then can eat. The pack leader is the one that really has a beast inside. If you have two wolves inside you and both are angry and hungry, then you're a pack leader. They really think that the true cycle of nature is the old path, the survival of the fittest, to just eat or be eaten is their philosophy. They are aware, of course, that life is more complex, but they may not be very much in favor of a complex life. In their opinion, it may be, or in their view, it may be better to just go back to the roots and live among the animals. Being raised by wolves for them is a privilege, is what is the best and most true to oneself experience. They love to have animals among them and fight in their battle as a leader, as an animal themselves, as they can transform, they can shapeshift into one of the animals and then lead the pack to battle. More in the melee, they will be more focused on melee mechanics and in shapeshifting and summoning animals, and maybe less in the spells of nature and nurture. The ranger, contrary to the botanist and the pack leader, this one is well versed in cities and civilization. While of course they also enjoy nature the most, they understand that civilization will not go away and that is now a part of nature, and they seek the balance between urbanization, urban areas, and also nature. Ideally, of course, it can be intertwined. They love when a city has big gardens, a lot of trees, and a lot of nature inside. And they don't mind when there are small settlements made out in the woods. They know that scouting the woods and making sure it is protected from harm and from evildoers needs cooperation between the nature, the animals, the plant life, and everything they have a deep connection to, and the more modern civilization at the time. Thus they use a combination of tools and weaponry together with their more druidic magic of summoning animals and casting spells of razor-sharp leaves and upheaving roots or summoning a few plants. The Shaman. The Shaman comes with the subclasses of the Elementalist, the Ritualist, and the Spiritualist. Shamans call upon the raw elements and the spirits of the ancients. They have highly magical powers to hurl at enemies at close and long range. At the same time, they summon spirits, ghostly figures of creatures long gone. However you want to shape these ghostly figures is up to you, whatever you like or whatever fits your inspiration, your idea. A shaman has a deep connection with the old world and the realm of the dead, which they treat with high respect. These spirits that the shaman can summon will buff allies directly on the battlefield, may also debuff enemies if you go deeper onto the summon spirit mechanics. Or maybe you choose the first subclass, the Elementalist, that really focuses on the raw power of elements, the fire, the lightning, and the ice. They make them hear his call. They will cause great havoc upon hostile beings and strike with lightning, raise the temperatures to cause great heat and drought, and really punish whoever doesn't respect the spirits. They are a very aggressive class, someone who can dish out a lot of damage and really find great harm to cause with their elemental raw power. The Spiritualist focuses more on the spirits. They can summon a bit stronger spirits and they will find a deeper connection with the spirits. They may be able to have extra effects from their spirits, from themselves or for their allies on the battlefield. They are much more of a supporting class with mechanics to heal and buff and maybe move around with your spirits and really play in the team, while the Elementalist before is more maybe of a glass cannon. The Ritualist, unlike the Spiritualist, doesn't bolster the spirit to buff allies, but instead the Ritualist incorporates spirits. When the Ritualist summons spirits, they do not summon them as ghostly figures on the battlefield, but they summon them within themselves, letting themselves be possessed by spirits, to gain greater power, and also potentially suffer from side effects that binding a spirit temporarily to your physical body will cause. But in turn, they will be able to cause great harm to their foes. They may be able to play in melee with a buffed strength by a strong spirit from the past, or maybe more raw elements that they will then encircle themselves with, bolstered by their spiritual power. It's a very reckless approach to gameplay for them. The warrior. The warrior comes with the subclasses of the vagabond, guardian, and the samurai. I'm not sure on the names here, I just want to say it ahead. If the samurai changes or if the guardian changes, I'm only sure on the vagabond. Originally, the guardian I named paladin, but I'm also not sure on that name. I also like the subclass name of the champion. That could fit the guardian or paladin, but it could also fit the samurai. It's a little bit tough to find a good word that works well in English and also properly represents the class mechanics. But we will get to it. For now, I will call them vagabond, guardian, and samurai. In general, the warrior is tough and can deal lethal blows by using weapons. They can be played at range, but in general, their kit is more geared for melee. The warrior is versatile in abilities and manages combat well and has cool strike abilities that slash through foes, pierce them on the battlefield, push them around, bash down with a strong hammer strike, making the whole earth around them shake. They are really the prowess in combat. And their subclass, the vagabond, is less specialized on one thing and a bit more versatile. They are trying to be flexible and adapt to any situation. They are used to fighting against the odds, to have to fend off on their own against potentially multiple foes that are better equipped. They can improvise, adapt and overcome in all kinds of situations. Rough terrain is not a big deal for them, and if they're once out of the weapon, they will find a new weapon. Even a crashed bottle can be a good piercing weapon to make his foes bleed. They are experienced at fighting all kinds of enemies, beasts, monsters, and worst of all, men. They won't let any difficulty or any unfavorable circumstances get them down. They will fight grit and teeth to the end. The Guardian is a more defensive playstyle that, as the name indicates, prefers to protect and support their allies. They will go in and hold up their shield high and make sure their allies take less damage or no damage. They will still be able to deal out all the damage that a warrior can and be great with their weapon of legends that has chosen them or they have chosen, a weapon that may level along with them as they are the legendary protector, the guardian, the one that comes to save the realm, the most heroic archetype of a warrior that really wants to protect the weak and strike those that bully the weak. And then the samurai, the most professional warrior, the one that may have served in the military, that may have served in an army, that went to the battlefield, that may have even commanded a small troop of soldiers. And he knows the battlefield tactics, he knows where to positioning, he knows when to switch weapons, he knows how to use a mount and can really specialize in the mounted combat. He's the one that will most frequently switch weapons depending on the situation. He really wants to be flexible and always is professional with different kinds of battle stances, ready to adapt to the situation. He is not used to fight alone. He prefers to fight along with other warriors or other allies of other classes. He knows that the right team positioned in the correct ways on the battlefield will lead to victory. Mind over prowess is his approach. The Magi. The Magi comes with the subclasses of the Necromagi, the Moros Magi, and the Chronomagi. A Magi is really your traditional spellcaster, your wizard if you want to say so. They are well educated and often at the cost of their physical capabilities. Their studies of the arcane knowledge allow them to deal great damage with magic, but also control the battlefield with more utility-oriented spells. They know a great number of spells and will utilize them in and out of combat. And each subclass digs deeper into one aspect of the magic in this world. The Necromagi is pretty much your classic necromancer that reanimates the dead to fight for them while also debuffing opponents with vile curses. They are great summoners and great in dealing nasty damage spells and causing great harm to the opponents. A very offensive and summoner-oriented class. While the Chronomagi is oriented on time magic, on controlling the timings of spells and abilities, of controlling the positionings and movement of allies and enemies alike. They are the ones that may be able to retcon some of the roles that have been made or move in a direction only to then having happened to move in another direction. They really can rewind time in a way that allows them to play out a turn that went poorly again in a better way, or retcon things that had happened. Suddenly, the history of things changes. Everyone thinking, wait, we just saw something happening, but now I remember it's suddenly different. And only the Chronomagi knows. They just lived through both timelines and ended up choosing magically which one they want to canonize. And then the Moros Magi. These Magi are known for their belief in a fated existence, a future that has already been determined, and it is up to them to foretell it. They trust in their magic tarot deck of cards, which they have an intricate synergy with. Their mechanics are deeply interwoven with drawing cards from their tarot deck, and that determines what spells they will have available at the time. And they trust in this. They know they will draw what they need to draw in the moment. They trust that the right outcome will always come, no matter if they could foresee it or not. But of course, if they can foresee it, they will take comfort in knowing what is to come and make sure that it happens, as they do not want to disrupt the fate of existence. But at times they may be able to lead the hand of fate a little bit in a direction that they like. And if it was not meant to be, they wouldn't have been able to do it to begin with, right? Their mechanics are a bit more on the random side, as they draw a deck and cannot just choose among all their abilities. They are able to, of course, adjust their deck with the level ups over the course of the game, and may be able to also put in cards that allow them to pull specific cards out, or to draw faster, to discard and draw again. They will have very trading card game inspired mechanics that they then will bring onto the table and allows them to unleash effects onto the enemies or allies. Of course, the longer the combat goes, the more cards they could have drawn and may choose to save a fated card for that one moment where it comes in clutch. The Rogue. The Rogue comes with the subclasses of the Charmer, the Tinkerer, and the Assassin or Ninja. I'm a bit torn on the wordings between assassin and ninja. At least what we imagine in pop culture, the fantasy of a ninja, fits this subclass better than what some people imagine with the assassin. For some people, it may be like, well, assassin and ninja is the same thing. And for others, it may be like, no, not really. And that is exactly the reason why I'm torn on these words. In general, the rogue is your classic attacker that sneaks around the battlefield to cause great harm at the right moment with a very precise strike. They are not the toughest class, but they are very versatile with their repertoire of skills. They are very heavy leaning towards landing critical strike and have great synergy with that. They can create traps and they can brew together poisons that help them further on the battlefield. They also have some maneuverability abilities and some hide and sneak mechanics. You will not really be able to focus on all the things I just mentioned as a core rogue, but you can really choose whatever of these mechanics you enjoy the most and then focus on that. And the subclasses will focus even further on some of those existing mechanics or add a few more that synergize with the core mechanics of the rogue. In general, you really want to stab or shoot and land lots of critical strikes. Let's start with the ninja, a master of murder, infiltration and espionage. They use their ninjutsu to cause distraction or teleport short distances or vanish from plain sight and then attack in a great surprise. They are known for killing without anyone noticing, as if they were never there. If someone has paid a ninja to get you, you won't notice until it's too late. They are pretty much more rogue into the rogue and get more fancy abilities that are almost magical in style. They're highly mobile and very focused on dealing damage and maneuvering through the battlefield. Then the Tinkerer. The Tinkerer knows a versatile mind is well prepared for any situation and uses the surroundings to their advantage. These crafty fellas are not only masters at building and disarming traps, but also contraptions, tools, small but deadly toys and anything their tinkering genius comes up with. At the same time, their own strikes are still as deadly as any rogues. They may adjust some armor pieces or improve weapons or even create and craft automatically shooting crossbows. They may have unique ammunition and they're certainly better at the crafting aspect. If the crafting aspect is something you're really into, then the Tinkerer is your way to go. The Charmer is potentially a scoundrel by reputation, an outright criminal by law, but a hero to the common folk and only a thief of hearts. These charming fellows, guys and gals and everything beyond, not only know how to win a fight, but also the adoration of people. A charmer is well aware that their tongue is just as sharp as their blade. With their charismatic words and enchanting moves, they maneuver the battlefield as if it was their personal chambers, inspiring allies and dissuading foes, all while looking absolutely fabulous. They are less on the hide and sneak and more on the shine bright and take in the spotlight to distract foes, to enchant foes, and to maybe inspire a foe here and there to maybe switch sides. The Goetia comes with the subclasses of Ichorgeny, Oneirogeny, and Astrogeny. They are born under an unconventional circumstance and have thus inherited supernatural powers. This can be by having an unusual pair as parents, or maybe you have been born under a specific star, or maybe you have been succumbed to rituals on birth, or maybe one of your parents has been succumbed to ritual. Maybe you've been artificially created. You're just somehow created, made, born different than your normal kin. Either way, you have gained innate magic flowing through your veins, powers beyond the normal, beyond what is known, powers that you may need practice in to unleash them and control them. They may burst out of you without knowing you and causing great harm to the people around you. You may have been feared for that or even revered. Maybe you have been praised as the new blessing, the new forthcoming of the gods. They sent their son to bring the blessings to the world. Or maybe you are seen as a curse, a plague to the land, a great ill omen of the demise, of the end of all. However you want to play this out is up to you. The Goetia comes with some innate powers, which at character creation you can choose from a great many. You can have elemental powers that you embody, that you have inside you and can unleash within time. Maybe you have more psychic mental powers where you can affect the minds of others or blast them with mental power. Or maybe you're just built bigger or more animalistic with sharp fangs and claws. Or maybe you actually have animal body parts. Maybe you have tentacles for arms or snake eyes. Maybe your lower body is that of a snake. Maybe you have clam arms or a scorpion tail, or maybe a bunch of the things I just mentioned all at once. However you have gained those traits, what made you be born with them, while it may have taken you time to explore them and fully reach your full potential, there will be a reason why you have been created or born this way, and the subclasses mirror that. First, the Ichorgeni means you have been born as a child of two beings unsuited for each other. You may have powers from both, or primarily from one. Maybe one of those beings was a god and the other a mortal. Maybe both of them were gods. Maybe they were both also Goetia of some kind. Maybe they were cursed, and then when they made an offspring, you came out and you were even more vile than what they are, but not cursed, or even cursed more. Either way, you have been born to unusual parents and been the even more unusual child. And the blood of those kinds that flows through you is what gives you strength. It can be of divine essence, of necrotic energies. It can be a hot devil's tar-like blood, or it can be literal dragon's blood running through your veins. Whatever it is, it causes you greater powers and fuels your innate powers even more, as your blood, your genetic code, is what gives you all this power. The Astrogeny, on the other hand, was born under a specific constellation of the stars. Maybe the planets were aligned in a perfect line, or maybe it was just the stars that were shining especially bright at the time of your birth, or a comet that passed by that was relevant, that gave you these innate powers upon birth. All of that has allowed you to be an Astrogeny. And thus your powers are further bolstered by constellation, by your zodiac sign, and by your ascendant, by the element of your birth. And you can further utilize, when you grow stronger, these powers of the stars. And all the flavor is really with the constellation and the associations we have with them, and the powers of the stars at the night sky. You may be stronger when they shine bright, or your spells may even allow you to create a window even through a ceiling to see the stars through the solid ceilings in the night sky glowing down. Maybe it's even day, and yet you manage to pull a part into the night sky to further bolster your powers and cause whatever harm the constellations you have focused on allow you. This can be buffing your allies or causing harm to your enemies. This can be a great variation of skill and is very flexible in how you want to play it out. Of course, for this inspiration, I took all the ideas of what each zodiac represents. If this doesn't fit your world or your setting, you can always change it. It doesn't need to be Capricorn, Taurus, Cancer, and Virgo. It can, of course, be different ones. It could be the dragon, the hydra, the basilisk, the worm, or the worm. Whatever you want, whatever fits your world. And then the last subclass of the Goetia, Oneirogeny, born within dreams of mysterious entities in the cosmos, or something like that, they are often told. No one really knows how an Oneirogeny came to be. Sleeping upon birth, unlike the usually crying offspring of most kinds, they are calm in nature. and while asleep in your dreams, you travel beyond the world that is known, into distant dreamlike realms of intense magic. You do not want to disturb your slumber, even less you want to be asleep. Most of the time, you have a better time in your dream. The dream life is for you the better world, the better than reality. It is where you engage and where you have the greatest power. You cast your magic, your innate powers, the strongest while you're asleep. This doesn't mean you cannot interact with the world. You can learn to talk and move while sleeping and be aware of your surroundings, but it takes some practice and maybe some level ups. And at the same time, if your enemies are asleep, you have the greatest power of them. While you may be able to cast some magic in reality, if you cast them while you are asleep and your target is also asleep, you can visit them in their dreams and cause them to suffer from the greatest nightmares that will even have repercussions in real life. You are probably the squishiest Goetia and the one that can cause the greatest harm. Very much a spellcaster, a controller that is quite the glass cannon. Now we come to less defined classes. We start with the Prodigy. The Prodigy comes so far with the subclasses of Master of Mind, Master of Body, Master of Soul. The Prodigy is the one that hones their skills in meditation and rigorous physical practice. Practice, that's me, Trapdoor, I can't speak. I like shingles. They train their mind and body and try to stay healthy and in top condition. They know a good punch is just as strong as a strike with a sword. And a strong will is required to resist the most harmful effects. They will hone them and train themselves rigorously and achieve maybe even a greater enlightenment, a greater status of self, a greater understanding of their body, mind and soul. They play out most likely with martial arts, with a more Asian-inspired way of fighting, most compared to what in D&D would be the monk class. But I want to try to broaden it a bit with more philosophical aspects and give them very different aesthetics and play styles in their subclasses. That the subclass is not just, oh yeah, you have a slightly different martial arts. No. Every Prodigy has honed their skills in martial arts, but their subclasses open further territory. The Spellsword. This will be your classic Gish, the person that is wielding a blade and magic and combines it in combat to bring forth the greatest power. I want them to have great synergy of spell casting and sword fighting. It doesn't even need to be a sword. It could also be a glaive or a spear or whatever weapon you desire. But the synergy must be great, and I have different ideas for subclasses where the blade may level up with the spell sword player as well, or may have its own personality and be in a way its own character. There are very many fantasies I can create and realize within this class, and I have yet to put my mind on what I want to realize, how, in which subclass. And now for the last two classes, I will just tease them a little bit with a few images. Maybe you figure out what they could be. As a disclaimer, they're not too fleshed out yet, they're just more of a raw concept. And I will work on their exact mechanics at a later time, as I cannot work on everything at once. Anyway, this was my video on all the classes. I hope you liked it. I hope you got an image, a picture for yourself of what fantasy each class brings to the table. And maybe you even had ideas of how you could combine different classes to find a great synergy in flavor. Or maybe you have an idea of a fictional character that you would like to play in the game, or you own creation that did not really fit one class but may be able to be mixed and matched with several classes. Please let me know in the comments if you have any inspiration hitting you right now. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked. And absolutely let me know if you think there is something missing. So, you're still watching. I have to admit, I lied. I have told you about 10 classes and teased 2 more classes. And as it is with this game, with Dungeon 12 still being work in progress and in the development, in the middle of it, some classes are already very far and getting close to completion, while others are just a raw concept. And while I personally would of course love to drop all 12 sometime next year and be like, hey, here you go, enjoy. It's not very realistic, or it's not even ideal to just wait until I've completed all 12 and then drop them at once. I think it is a better approach to focus more on some of the classes, so I can, on a pre-release, bring out fully finished 6 or 8 classes that people then can already play, so they don't have to wait further. If I would want to wait until I've done all 12 from scratch to finish, then that would delay everything. That would delay the playtests, that would delay the people being able to just enjoy the system and the rules. And I want to bring this out at least in an early version before everything is complete, so people can also give feedback to the classes, and it just makes sense to do that step by step and not overwhelm myself by trying to push everything to the end. That also means that the classes that come later may not actually come at all, and instead another class idea may have come up to my mind that I deemed to be the better concept, to be more fun. And then who would I be to say, hey, I promised one class here, but I've had a better idea, but since I promised the other one already, I will commit to the worse idea. No, I'm not going to do that. If I have a better idea, I will either adapt a class and implement the better ideas if possible, but if it is not going hand in hand with the concept I had previously, I may scrap the class and create something better out of its ashes.